Hello and welcome. I'm Megan. I'm a photographer and watercolor artist with chronic health challenges, POTS, and restraint issues. I want to encourage you and for you to see what is possible. So here is something fun I discovered. I was thinking about different types of patterns that you can do that are simple and fun, and you learn a lot from doing over and over again. There's the squares and the circles, the lines patterns, but I didn't want to do squares again right now, and circles are hard. So I thought, how about watercolor mountains? It's kind of like triangles, but uneven on the top. So first, I am doing all wet mountains up against each other. And on the bottom half of the page, we're going to wait in between for them to dry, each row, and then do some glazing. I don't usually do glazing. I feel like it requires more precision and can, I guess, be harder on my wrists, but mainly I'm just not patient. So these mountains up here are going to have less defined edges and are going to kind of run into each other, which is quite fun. You see, I'm like layering them in between every other one. And then the glazing at the bottom here, when we do that, that will make it easier for you to see the edges of the mountains, where one begins and the other ends. It's really fun to see how the colors blend together on paper and do fun things. This is kind of swatching from one color in my palette to the next there, so you could do that with your palette. Just start with the first color and then paint the next color and the next color. You could also do this with like a color scheme that you've put together. So if you wanted to paint with like pinks and oranges and one blue or something, and you wanted to see how is that going to look in a painting, you could do a pattern like this and paint out your color scheme and have a chance to see how your color scheme looks on paper while also practicing doing a pattern. If you want to know the names of my colors, I put a picture of them with the names listed at the beginning of the video. I am using a big flat brush for this. This is a really good thing to try painting if you have wrist strength issues, because things with smaller brushes where you like move your wrist a lot more, lots of little repetitive actions can really hurt your wrist, but big broad strokes, mountains, things like that are really good if you have wrist strength issues. Alright, so the glazing one. Now that we have done all of the colors, just one right after the other, letting them all moosh into each other, wet on wet, we're going to try to create some more precise edges. Now, if you wanted to be very precise, and we're a very patient person, you could paint this first one and then wait for it to dry totally. When you think it's dry, you touch it with the back of your hand, and if it's cool to the touch, it's not dry yet. Glazing doesn't work if you don't wait for it to dry completely first. So I'm going to do the first row here, letting them kind of run into each other or whatever they want to do. And then I'm going to wait for this first row, the top row of my palette. I'm going to wait for that to dry, and then I'm going to come back and paint the next row of mountains. You will maybe notice that my water is all of a sudden magically clean. There's been a good bit of time between this so that it had a chance to dry. And I only did the first 3 colors because I decided that I wanted to have all of these warm colors. The yellow, it's the Indian yellow up at the top, and then the yellow ochre and the quin pink on the top row here, all of the warm colors, and then the next row of mountains that we're working on now. The Paul Rubens green, the carbazole violet, and the ultramarine turquoise. The ultramarine turquoise here is the first one that's not so dark that you can kind of actually see the mountain behind it. That's glazing, where you can see the previous thing that you had painted shining through the one that you're painting now. That only really works if you have transparent colors and you've added enough water so that the color spreads out and you can actually see through it. Because if I were to keep going, I could make this very dark and completely cover, but that's not what we're doing. So that's the next row. Now we're going to wait, which will be just a couple seconds for you. Now we're going to add the next row. I kind of like how the 3 looks, because the first one was 4, and compositionally, odd numbers generally works better than even numbers for some reason, and so to have 3 on each row, I'm really liking how this is turning out. I definitely want to try this again with different color palettes. I could see doing like dark bluey greens in the background and then putting more like olivey, warmer yellows, warmer greens in the front. Colors get cooler as they go away from you, and they get warmer as they come closer to you. And so that would really create this really cool depth. I could also do like a landscape with this and do like the cool greens off in the distance, and then have the like warmer greens coming closer, and then put a landscape around this, maybe like just like a sky and some water or something. But it really creates a fun pattern. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun with this. I was wanting to paint some patterns and like show something that's easy to do with wrist strength issues that you can just put some paint on paper. Was not expecting the glazing one to look so good because I never am patient enough for the glazing. So maybe I'll have to actually like get more patient and do that more often. But thank you for hanging out with me today. Hopefully you have fun painting this. What did I say? Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.